Hey, Miles here at Tactical Hyve. It is Thursday, so that means it's another live fire session, and we're going to continue our discussion about using our arms, which are a part of our stance, to help us also manage recoil better. So if you're interested, make sure to stay tuned to this video. On Monday, we talked about how we won't always have our ideal center of gravity whenever we're shooting. Yes, it would be great to always have this stance, but we might be leaning, we might be in an awkward position. So how do we manage recoil in those situations? Having a good stance is always going to be optimal. That's going to be in your insurance policy, but there's also a safety layer here, and that is relaxing your arms. This is something very personal though. What I mean by that is we can't say have 50% tension in your arms and that's going to work for everybody. It's going to be different because of musculature, the size of your gun, the actual caliber you're using, rate of fire, all of that stuff. Okay. The idea here, the concept, and I'm dry right now, the concept is we want to use our arms to absorb some of that recoil. Now we don't want the gun coming up. Now clearly there will be some muzzle flip, but with our elbow here, when it bends, we want it to kind of bend inwards. That's the ideal situation. So the recoil pattern would be like this, okay, rather than upwards. Now, again, you're gonna have upward movement just because there's gonna be muzzle rise, but that is what we're searching for. And in order to do that, your arms have to be relaxed. If you lock out your arms here, as some shooters do, you will always feel the recoil and your body is going to be pushed back. From the shoulders back, you would see that as a telltale sign. But if you have your arms relaxed, it's going to absorb some of that recoil so that you'll see less movement in your shoulders. So for the live fire exercise today, we're going to try to establish a baseline for you, and then you're going to constantly improve. If you watched dry fire session on Monday, I talked about how this is something that's going to take some time to refine, but now you're going to know about it so that you can begin to work on it. Okay, so this session, it's also good to have a buddy or a video camera to see how much you're moving. So you want to set up that video camera or your iPhone right next to you. You do not need to shoot a target here. Okay, if you do start shooting a target, you might be focused on the target rather than what we're working, and that is relaxation of our arms here. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is you're going to load a magazine, and for this live fire session, I don't want you to have an ideal stance. You're going to stand up straight. Now notice, I'm going to do this one way here, where I am literally just going to be super tense with my arms there, locked out. There's a lot of tension. And if I do this, look at my shoulders. I am going to move back a lot. I'm going to take 2 to 3 shots. Notice how I'm moving back here, because it's so tight. Everything is really tight with my arms, okay? Now I'm going to do another rep where I do the complete opposite, where I really relax my arms. There's not a lot of tension at all. And remember, like I said, it's kind of like a happy medium. We need to find that point where there's some tension, but overall relax. This, I'm going to try to relax as much as possible here. So, that was a more relaxed position with my arms. Okay, you might not see it because of the sleeves, but definitely more relaxed. And what I did there was it was so relaxed that also my grip tension began to relax. Now you don't want to do that. I overdid it so that everything just was relaxed here. But you'll notice that I did it, my shoulders didn't move back in that rep. Okay, not nearly as much as the previous one where I was really tight here. Okay, then you're going to feel everything. What you need to do is find that balance point between the two ends, okay? Not being too stiff, not being too relaxed. And you can see I was so relaxed that, again, my grip was relaxed. Now remember, we define stance as our arms and everything else is our shooting platform. Body, legs, all that. Our grip is our wrists and our hands. So your stance is separate from your grip. So even though you relax your arms, it doesn't mean you have to relax your wrists and your grip tension, okay? So here you want to stand up straight, not in your ideal stance, because we're mimicking those situations where we do not have our ideal stance. So now what I'm going to do is, now I'm just going to play around with this. I'm going to keep my grip tension. I'm going to have maybe about, compared to the previous one, I will have about 30% pressure. Now what is that? I'm just making that up, but I'm adding incremental tension into my arms, just enough that it's not going wild or anything like that, but I feel like I have more control, but not too tense that I'm going to fall back here. So here, so that felt a little bit better. Okay, so if you watch the video, you'll be able to see that there still wasn't a lot of movement, but for me, it just felt better. Now, I feel like I was letting up in my grip tension, so now I'm gonna do the same thing here, and that felt even better, okay? So the idea is to look at the video to see if you are, it's not really your wrist here right now, guys, okay? Because remember, we talked about how the muzzle rise is controlled a lot by your grip, so from wrist to hands, okay? Now, muzzle rise can look worse if you relaxed, really relax with your arms, and as it's coming up, your elbow is bending. It can make it look worse. But if your wrist tension is good here, okay, and you have that proper tension, relaxed tension, again, I'm just making that up, then you're not going to see a lot of movement. Now, again, it might not be as good as having the ideal stance, but it will work, okay, for what we need to do. So you're going to have to do this a lot of rounds. How many rounds? It's really up to you, because this is something that I alluded to in the dry fire video. You have to do this over and over and over. And when you find what you feel is the right balance point, a few months, years down the road, you're gonna probably change it again. You're like, I can change it up, I can tweak it, okay? It could be better. And even the pros, the best shooters in the world, are constantly going back to these basics to refine things. Now imagine now if you add this layer of having relaxed arms, kind of that controlled tension, so to speak, okay, or isolation of tension, and combine it with an ideal stance, then your recoil management is going to be even much better. So there's a lot of things when it comes to this stance. A lot of people don't really talk about all these things, but if you combine them all, you're going to have the best performance that you possibly can. So what you want to do for this live fire session, there's no prescribed amount of rounds, but you do need to have a video camera and video yourself each repetition to kind of see how things are going. You can even compare it to your ideal stance and kind of see what the movement was like. Compare and contrast. I would shoot 2 to 6 rounds at a time. Okay? Don't just be happy with 2 rounds, because there's a cumulative effect. Sometimes people can handle 2 or 3 rounds, but as they shoot 3, 4, 5, or 6, they start to move back on 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you want to make sure that you're good in that entire spectrum, 2 to 6 rounds, right? So do this for as long as you feel comfortable. You just want to see improvement. But if you don't have a partner, you're not going to really see that. I mean, you could do this solo and just kind of feel it, but you would need a lot more experience. So if you don't have that experience, if this is new to you, use a video camera to diagnose your performance. So I hope you guys liked today's video. It is another layer for your stance that is going to combine with having a good forward center of gravity so you can better manage recoil. Make sure you have a video camera or a partner to hold you accountable for your movement, and so you can really measure if you're improving or not. And once you get a baseline, remember you're constantly going to improve from there. That's not just going to be where you end up for the rest of your shooting career, especially if you shoot a lot. You're going to be tweaking it constantly and looking for areas of improvement. As always, if you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next week.